Good morning, everyone. This is the Roger and Roger show this morning from CM First Group. My name's Roger Jip, and I am a director for business development for CM First Group. And I'm based in Austin, Texas. And then Roger Hammer is on, and he heads up our technical support and product management groups, and is more on the technical side of things. And he's based in Indianapolis, right?
That's right.
That's right. So thank you for joining us this morning. Hopefully the weather is good where you are. Hopefully you're not standing in an airport waiting for a flight. So I know those things are still challenging for a lot of people today, but our focus today is really going to be on how do we bring value to companies and organizations that are trying to reformat or reschedule or redo and modernize what they're doing with their legacy applications. So when I say business development, I am continuously looking for companies that have got legacy applications or old applications, and they don't quite know what to do to get started with modernizing those applications or bringing new features into play. So with that being said, hopefully you're all in the right session today. A little bit about our company and who we are. So CM First Group has been around for a number of years, and we've been helping companies since 2010. So we are not new to this space. We go back with the mainframe and Computer Associates days of time, and we now have Broadcom, IBM, PTC, and Fortra as our primary partners. And in fact, we've been at a couple of events recently with at different shows and events, talking with folks that are on IBM I and the IBM mainframes, and looking at COBOL and RPG and other even legacy applications that they're building. But we're not new to the business, nor are we small in numbers of customers. And we've got very, very large customers who are global, and other smaller companies who are mid-sized to growing businesses in the millions of dollars. So we cover a lot of industries. Our discovery of problems, as we think of them today, is we find a lot of our prospects and customers are spending a lot of time manually reviewing what they've got for existing applications. Sometimes there's a lot of detail that's not available, never been written, maybe poorly documented. Other times the people that you need to talk to are no longer there. And other times companies just have decided it's time to move on to some different platforms. And so they're trying to figure out, how do we go through and figure out what it is that we have here? And with that knowledge base that they've got, some of these people that they've been dealing with have retired or left the company, or just want to do other things. They don't want to deal with those legacy apps anymore. So the challenge with that is, if you start to move forward without knowing what you have, you make a lot of assumptions, and a lot of our customers have made assumptions or have to redo things. And so we're here to help eliminate those kind of problems. So the thing I always hear from folks I talk to is, tell me the before and after. Tell me, if I use CM First Group and our product is known as the evolveIT product, what if I don't use evolveIT and go forward? And what if I do use evolveIT? So think of it this way: when you're getting ready to rebuild an application or add features onto an application, or maybe you want to move it from COBOL to Java, or maybe you want to start doing AI, because there's a lot of people starting to do AI. The first thing they do is they take some legacy application and they just start piecing it together. So then they got to spend months of time reviewing the old manual code, looking at documentation, trying to figure out what the dependencies are, what the integration requirements are, and trying to just understand where the architecture is. And those things, if you're doing them manually, it's like doing stuff with a bunch of spreadsheets, and what goes back with what, especially if you're dealing with a team of people or dealing with a lot of applications. Because a lot of our customers, they aren't just dealing with one or two applications that are simple. They're dealing with either highly complex apps or a bunch of applications. So with us, and when you come along with evolveIT, and Roger Hammer is going to show you some of this today, is we're going to put together an asset inventory management process that's going to just spend a few hours as opposed to weeks or months. So literally, we're going to scan your application and very quickly provide you a very robust set of documentation, cross-program dependencies, maps. You're going to see it's very visual in what we do and how we help you connect the dots. And everything is tied back not to a spreadsheet, not to a cell somewhere, not to someone else's work, but directly tied back to the program itself. So you're going to know what those dependencies are and know where they tie back in the source code. So discovery is now, the time for discovery moves from months of time to literally hours to get a little bit out and weeks to get everything you need out of there. So quite different in how we help automate that discovery process and get you on the road to building better applications. Roger, you want to
I
take
will
it from
do
here?
that. Thank you, Roger. And so we're going to provide a demonstration, but I just want to give you a little bit of background and what we're going to show you before we get started. So when you're doing, as Roger said, some kind of modernization, rewrite, whatever it may be, you need to understand the current application, and you're going to need to find out what's that architecture look like. And from a project perspective, you want to break down that application into groupings of code. Some people call that a fracture plane, right? How do I fracture that application into groupings that are somewhat independent, or at least can be modernized or rewritten as a group of code, and then tested and executed so I know it's working. And so we're going to look at, how do we use what we call an inventory of your code in evolveIT to understand dependencies, look at call graphs, identify, what programs, copybooks. In our case, we're looking today at mainframes, so JCL, any tables, all those elements. You need to understand how they fit together. And going the next step, then, once we understand how things fit together, we're going to use some AI in combination. We call it grounded AI. So in combination with the metadata that we parse from your code to make sure that that result is a grounded result, giving you accurate information. So we're going to talk about a whole flow of components. I'm actually going to start today with a program, and we're going to start with that program. We're going to kind of back up, go up the chain, identify the job, JCL, that's related to it. We're going to identify the copybooks, in our case, files instead of DB2, but it could be DB2, could be any database. And so we're going to then capture that information and then move forward as documentation. And I'm going to show you a little bit about how we actually capture documentation and store that within evolveIT so it's reusable. And so let's move to the next step, right? We're going to actually extract some business rules, and then I'm going to show you how to use some AI to maybe take the first step towards a rewrite. AI purely is not on its own maybe a full answer to converting code yet. It's getting there, but we've got some functionality here that will get you to a first step, and then if there's we have more structured processes if you're interested in talking about a full modernization project with CM First. So we do have very deterministic processes for modernization that we can discuss with you. Okay, I'm actually going to go ahead and jump into the demo now, and then we'll come back here. All right, so we're looking here at the dashboard for CM evolveIT. Provides you basic statistics and some metrics like complexity there. So we know this is a relatively, I'll call it medium size, although compared to some customers, it's actually very small. Almost 800 programs. We've got 800,000 statements in code, not lines of code, but in this case, statements. Since we're parsing that code, we know that information. Complexity information, number of copybooks, all those things are available to us. I'm going to drop real quickly into a text search. I'm going to start with a field, and I'm going to search out where that field's used. It's just used in a few components. And I see there's one program and 2 copybooks that have this field. And I'm just using this quick search to identify where my starting point is. I know I want to do some modernization work, or it could be a change based on where this field is used. And so from this copybook perspective, I know I've got one program here directly using it, but another program that is also using that field from the copybook. So I'm going to grab that program and drop into our asset browser. From here, it's already there. Okay, so I can paste in my program name and do a search. So if I search without a name, I get all of the all the programs that are listed in this particular inventory. But if I start with a program, I get obviously just that program. Now I have some options here, right? I can quickly see what is related to this program. And this is going to be what we call local. So we call this the show local icon. And so show local shows everything related to this program, whether it's calling it or called by it, or in fact, a copybook that is used by it. So we see in this case, at the first level, there are 24 programs, 122 copybooks for JCL, and with those JCL 4 job procedures. If I adjust this and say, show me forward, then I can adjust and see the full list. And now we see we actually have 61 programs. Okay. So from here, I'm going to go begin a diagram from this particular program. And I can go either forward or backward. I'm first going to go find the JCL. So we've got 4 of those, which are basically variations on the same theme. So I'm just going to add one of those into my diagram. And then I'm going to add all of the rest of the call chain to my diagram. Now this gets to be a larger diagram, but this is all of the functionality that you're going to need if you want to modernize everything related to this program, this JCL. And so we can see a number of programs. Some of these are kind of lower level programs. As we get down in the bottom, we see, if I get down here, we see there's a bunch of IO programs that are handling file access, things like that. But we've got all the information here in this diagram. Get back to the top up here. And we've got our starting point, JCL. From here, I'm going to just hold that for the moment. In fact, let me go ahead and do, let me just save this diagram. So I'm going to save the diagram. I'm just going to give it my name. I'm going to just call it 135 group. So this is kind of tied to that particular group. I can make it public if I want to share this with others within the team. But I'm going to save it here. Okay. This also gives me the ability to publish this documentation to a documentation area, which I'm going to go ahead and do that also, so I can retrieve it and I can publish that. Okay. So I'm publishing that within evolveIT to make it accessible longer term. Okay, so I've captured that. I'm just going to minimize this, and I'm going to go back here, and I'm going to capture, first off, I'm going to create what we call an asset group. So I'm going to assign this to a group. I'm going to just call it that 135 group. And create my group. That gives us a starting point. So we've got a group created, and then I'm going to add all of those programs into the same group. And all I have to do is go back to my 135 group and click that assign option, and it's going to load all of those into the group. I will mention that if I go back to neighbor here and show the local, I can get my copybooks. Maybe I want to include the copybooks also and those JCLs. So I'm going to include those also in my group. And so I'm going to assign those to my group, go back to my 135. So it's going to be a sizable group here, but I'm going to keep a set of this code together that I want to do work with. In this case, some kind of modernization or rewrite work. Now I can go directly to asset groups, and I see now I have something called a 135 group with a large list of all the components that I added in there. Um, when I begin this process, I can just click on it and I get a full list of all the components by type. I get some complexity and some different kind of metrics related to programs. I get the full list of everything there. Okay. And what I will do now is begin to drill into uh, some processes where I can understand this. So first thing I'm going to do, excuse me, is uh, go into my particular program, my 135 program, and see that I can get into, for example, documentation. So I can begin to do analysis, obviously very similar to what I would do other places, but I can also drop into our AI workbench and begin to do some AI extraction, in this case, business rules extraction. And so I'm going to analyze this program uh, and get the business rules for this particular program and extract them here using AI. It's going to give me a condition for every single condition within the program itself. It's going to give me the actions related to each of those actions. Now, I'm just doing this on a single program basis, and part of that is it'll go relatively quickly here. We get our results. And so that's one approach I can use, and we always get a summary there. The other approach I can use from my asset group is to take the entire group into my AI workbench. Okay, now I've got everything related to this program group, copybooks, everything. And so I am going to go back to the main program, and I'm going to work with a couple of those programs. And I can do a number of things. So I can extract business rules. I can look at uh, all kinds of explanation information. I can do some data lineage analysis, refactoring. If I want to refactor, for example, some of the code, I can ask it to help me refactor. Looking at database conversion, different kinds of conversion, and then as we get to the bottom, we've even got extracting things and looking at those results. Okay. Uh, One other point is once I do work here, I have the ability to look at the results of work that I've done. So past AI analysis are going to show up here so I can access them. In fact, let me show you one that I already have here so you can see it. Let me go to this modernization group, and you can see that I've got past documentation in here. For example, extracting business rules, uh, extracting or converting code. There's actually some code there that's been converted, uh, and some of those business rules extractions. Okay. The other thing I want to do here is show you some documentation. And so if I use this modernization group, oops, sorry, got to get to the program there. I can go into this program where I've actually stored documentation, and I can look at the different kinds of documentation that I've created. So I've got diagram documentation showing the JCL and the direct calls. I've got the new program documentation that I just created tied to basically the entire call tree set of documentation. And then I've got documentation for the actual call tree where I've got a summary analysis of every single program. And so I've got a list of every program and the summary of what that program does. So All of this is quickly available because it's saved here and available for you to reuse. All right, let's go back to our 135 group and go into our AI workbench as I talked about before. And I'm going to do one last step, and that is I'm going to analyze and convert some of this code. Uh, find the ones that I want here. I think there's a few more down here. There we go. 182. There we go. Okay. So this does run a little while. So I'm going to start it off, show you kind of what it looks like. And we're going to convert these COBOL programs to Java. And we're going to run that analysis. So as this is running, let me explain what's happening. It's going to pull all three of those programs or whatever number you have, and it's going to analyze and pull the full source code. It then will drop into a process of analyzing each one of those programs. So this is an agent-based analysis where it's going to run each of those programs through a full pipeline process where it analyzes each program, captures the analysis. From that analysis, it's going to then modernize. It's going to convert that code in that pipeline. Once it gets converted code, it's going to do a functional validation between the original COBOL and the Java. Where there may be issues, it's actually going to cycle back through that conversion again up to 3 times to get that code as good as it can get. Once it completes that validation step and it's got the code complete, then it's going to do a syntactic validation so that the syntax is clearly working and validated in that Java code. And then it will do a final step where it provides developer notes. So those developer notes will be there to indicate where there may be missing functionality. And that missing functionality could be a missing copybook. It could be, any number of things related to integration that needs to be aware of for the developer when you review that code. So this is not 100% converted code, but it is highly converted and gives you the ability then to work with that code and to complete that process. So I've got some pre-converted code here. I want to bring it up. So here is the 135. It's converted to a service. So this is much like a Spring Boot kind of architecture rather than just what some people might call COBOL, right, where you've converted everything procedurally within a Java program. So this is broken up. You've got services for the different programs. Here's the one for the 135. We've also got the 182 program, which much smaller because they are broken up. And then we've got some extracted detailed Java and even this interest rate entry information, very basic information about this interest rate functionality. So as we see that it's been converted to more than a single module, but into a Spring Boot process architecture, then we have everything we need here. Again, in order to begin the process of completing this code by a developer. But much faster analysis. So kind of back to the slides that we had before, I've got this discovery process where we parse all the code, we bring it into evolveIT so you can analyze it. You can look at it top down, bottom up. You can search for any information within the code. And we can then, as I said, group the code into the asset groups so that we can work with these groupings. So if you think about the value of asset groups and modernization or rewriting your application, you've got an ability now to plan your project and actually set up the aspects of the code itself into asset groups. So you've got each call tree predefined, and then once you do that for each of the entry points of your application, you'll have the entire application split up into these fracture planes so that you can begin to say, okay, I've got X number of groupings of code. So I know that I'm going to walk through those groupings, complete the modernization on each group, complete the testing on each group, and then I can move on to the next group of code and plan, the integration testing, the third party components that you may have also interacting with those components. And so in this case, we can scope and make sure that we have phasing decisions made. We can create, as I said, those boundaries. We can develop the asset groups and the process flows to understand how we're working. This was a batch process that we're looking at, but you could be starting with a screen on a interactive application. And then you're going to have all the pieces of that application. So you can begin to look at the architectural aspects of the current application and begin to look at how do we want that architecture to look moving forward. Okay, so the key point here, we're going to compress our discovery and understanding time. If you have a large application, you could spend many months with a team analyzing and understanding that. With evolveIT, you're going to do that in hours to days. We say weeks here, but really, you're going to, if you have a massive application, you're going to do it in weeks instead of maybe a year. And so from there, we're going to understand and find all those hidden elements. We're going to know that because of the parsing and the metadata that we've collected, that you have all of the relationships. And then you're going to, prepare to rewrite. In this case, we're talking about some kind of modernization work. And then you can plan your decisions through that process. All right. So I think we've covered all the elements of our project, and I'm going to pass it back to Roger Jim.
All right. Thank you very much, Roger. I appreciate all your input there and what you have to talk to us about. The one thing I will tell you, in addition to what Roger was talking about, is there's a lot that we covered today. And some of it you may look at and say, yeah, this is important, or I don't know, or that's a lot of detail. We're actually offering at this point in time that anyone that is interested, we will do an application of yours on a complimentary basis. So if you want to connect with me after this event, or I will certainly be following up with you, we'll do one of your, we'll do your first app on a complimentary basis, so you can see what it really does. And some of that detail might make a lot more sense if it's in your nomenclature, if it's an app that you're dealing with, or again, one of these mystery apps that you've never seen in years, and maybe will help you uncover some things that you're doing. So I think that's partly what you need to know to understand where we are. I don't know from where I'm looking, are there any questions anywhere, Roger, that you see, or is there anything that's been submitted that people want to know about?
And I don't see any at the moment. If you want to ask questions, feel free to submit them. We got a minute or two here. I will comment for those of you that are wondering, how do I get started with CM evolveIT? As Roger said, we can work with you for, an application that you have today, a small application, to get it in there and show you how it works. And we can make that available on a, local basis and just share it with you in a meeting, or we can put it on a cloud instance of evolveIT and allow you to access it, which is one way that we provide this capability to our customers. But if you also prefer to have this on premises in your environment, you can set up your own server. This is a Windows application. We'll work with you to define what's needed and get CM evolveIT installed in your own environment, and give you the ability, and we'll work with you through the entire process to build your database or inventory of your source code. And we'll take you right through the training process and make sure you're prepared to do the work yourself. So yeah, we can do all of those options for you.
Yep. And we're going to be, we've got a couple of events coming up, one short term, one longer term, but we are going to be at Common out in New Orleans. So we've got that coming up here in a couple of weeks. And then we've also got our own hosted event in Nashville. And so you should be receiving some information about our Nashville event and what's going on there as well, and get a chance to meet us and talk with us, and certainly see some more details and understand even what some of our other customers are doing as well. The last part of that is if you're not the right person to talk to, if you could pass this along to the folks at your organization that are doing app development on the modernization side, that'd be great. And we'd appreciate anything you can do to help us there. Anything else, Roger?
I don't think so.
So one other thing to think about as we are wrapping up. Oh, what is that hat I have on? Make sure you root for the Nebraska Cornhuskers today. They're playing a basketball game today, and so just keep an eye out for Nebraska. And then for all of you folks that are traveling in the next day, 2 days, week or so, please be safe and patient. And those are challenges that a lot of our folks are dealing with as well. So with that being said, I'm good.
All right.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it, everybody.